Hidden in the middle of the desert is an old city that looks straight out of a fairy tale. It's the world's oldest skyscraper city. Hundreds of apartments dominate the city's skyline, some as high as 11 stories. Think of today's skyscrapers made of concrete and steel. But this city is 2,000 years old and is made of mud only. Now the question is, who built this city? Why are the buildings so high? And how did they do all this 2,000 years ago? This is the unique city of Shibam in Yemen, which is an archaeological wonder. It is hard to believe how this old city is so modern. Even if we compare it with Manhattan, which is a part of New York, Shibam has its own special charm. The thing is that this city is only 330 meters wide and 240 meters long. That is, this city is as big as the number of apartments in modern cities. But the population of Shibam is only 7,000, and its population density is very high. That is, in a very small area, more people live here. And of course, it is many years older than normal cities, so old that even during the Roman Empire, people were building tower houses in Shibam. But Shibam is not only special, its atmosphere also makes it even more special. This makes it priceless. People use mud bricks in the entire region, but such tall buildings are seen only in Shibam. This is a very strange thing. But what is even more surprising is that despite having so much space around, they have not built such tall buildings in this city. Why was it not spread sideways? But why was it only made high? Shibam is a place in Yemen whose mention you have probably heard only in news headlines.
Yemen hitting targets including the international airport in the capital Sana'a.
Airstrikes in Yemen targeting ports and energy infrastructure.
Houthi media said multiple people were killed in the strikes.
The strike hitting the Yemeni port city of Hodeidah.
But today, you are going to see a different aspect of this country. The story of Shibam tells the story of the harsh conditions of the people living here. The vibrant community is facing a major challenge, and the city itself is now in danger. But before we hear the story of the people of Shibam, a question that comes to mind is, why was there a need to build a city in the middle of the desert? The answer lies in Yemen's geography. If you look at the map of Yemen, orange and red show the places where people live, but most of Yemen is empty. People mostly live in the western parts of the country, in the mountains, where there are cities like Sana'a, or in areas like Aden on the coast. The middle of the country is a big desert where hardly anyone lives. But here, in the cracks of the plateau, you find human settlements. One such settlement is Shibam. These cracks were formed due to a reason. Water is very important for human life. Shibam Wadi is situated in a valley of Hadramaut. The wadi is actually a dry riverbed, which remains dry for most of the year. But during the rainy season, rivers flow here, storing water for drinking. It can be used for irrigation and farming as well. Due to this water, Shibam became an ideal place to build settlements near valleys in desert areas. Due to this water, Shibam also became an important part of the Asian trade network. People living here used to travel between India and Shibam. Shibam is mentioned in Greek sources and has been a part of many kingdoms and empires, but it was a new name for European explorers only in 1893. When Western travelers first saw this place. When they turned towards the city, they could not believe from a distance whether it was a rock or a mountain. But it was not a rock, rather, it was Shibam. About 500 houses are standing in a small place in the middle of the valley. European travelers called the city of Shibam the city of Chicago. This comparison was probably made because in 1885, A building in Chicago was counted among the world's first skyscrapers, a building that was built on a steel structure. But Shibam is quite different from this because instead of steel, clay was used in it. People who settled here had to face very difficult conditions. The weather here is often hotter than 40 degrees Celsius, and there are no trees here for shade. The desert rock is so hard that it is used only to make the foundation of the buildings. This is why the people here started living on local materials. They would make mud mortar and make bricks from it, which were dried in the sun. 16 workers could make 8,000 bricks in a day. And the life of the houses made from these bricks is very long. It is almost 300 years old, but maintaining the city is a continuous process. The material they use also has an impact on the design of the buildings. To make the foundation strong, the base of the house was kept wider. The walls from the bottom are up to 1 meter thick. After laying the bricks, they were covered with mortar plaster. But this was quite challenging for the upper floors. The upper parts of the buildings were covered with white lime plaster, which kept the upper part waterproof. The tall buildings in this desert were also used to keep the walls cool. Due to being built close to each other, the heat of the sun does not fall directly on the walls, and the plaster of mud acts as an insulator, which does not allow the heat to enter inside. Besides, the reflective properties of white lime further reduce the heat. But the question is, why did they not apply white lime plaster on the entire building? The simple answer is that lime was very expensive in those days, and hence it became a status symbol. The most important buildings, such as mosques, were completely covered in white lime, but there were other ways to show status. The doors of apartment blocks were made of calf wood, on which beautiful designs could be seen. There are challenges in building such tall buildings. There are no elevators in these houses, so how do people manage it? People here see it as a sport. Going up and down 2 to 3 floors every day is a normal thing for them. But for elderly people, it is a big deal. This is quite difficult for the people. But it is not just people, large items and modern things also have to be carried upstairs. Today, people in Shibam use refrigerators and air conditioning units, and these items are pulled up using ropes from the roof to be carried upstairs, as the stairs become narrower after the 4th floor. Here, every floor has a specific purpose. The ground floor is for storage and shops, which were earlier closed due to the threat of wild animals. The 1st floor is used for animals. The 2nd floor is for men and guests. The 3rd floor is the family area, where kitchens have also been built, and the top floors are used for sleeping. But the real question still remains. Why was such a high city built 2,000 years ago when there was empty desert around? People of the old times often used to live in mountains or on high altitudes. One of the main reasons for the settlements was that it was better to protect oneself from wild animals and enemy attacks. But when space is limited, you have to go to higher altitudes. According to archaeological excavations, people started living in this region 2,000 years ago. They were building 4-story houses, but Shibam was still different from other cities. Hadramaut Valley is very high. It was often the target of attackers. That is why the houses here are built so close that their walls act as city walls. People wanted to expand the city horizontally, but there was very little free space. They decided to expand the city vertically in 700 AD, i.e. 1301 AD. But the answer to why there was less space lies in an incident that happened 500 years earlier, which changed Shibam forever due to 2 big floods. In the years 1298 and 1532, large parts of the city were destroyed. At that time, Shibam was surrounded by water, just like a peninsula. These floods gave the city the shape that we see today. Since then, people here started building tall houses. This city was built by those people, built by the hands of people who have been living here for centuries. Shibam is an example of human courage, where despite difficulties, people built a unique city. But threats still exist for this peaceful and unique community. In 2008, a big cyclone came towards Yemen, which caused severe floods. Some buildings of Shibam collapsed, and many people lost their lives, but the damage could have been even worse if their houses were not high. This is a major reason for this city. And the biggest danger is the ongoing war in Yemen, due to which inflation has been affected the most. Nowadays, a laborer is hardly able to buy anything. And then there was the incident of 2009, when a terrorist killed 4 South Koreans and their guide during the war. Due to fear, tourism has completely ended here. Explosions keep happening inside and outside the city, which have a bad effect on the local people. The tourism that used to be here has now completely ended, which was once the only source of income for many families here. But despite all these dangers, Shibam still stands, and its people are proud of their city. They love their city so much that they praise it everywhere. People certainly. Continuing from people here live shoulder to shoulder with their neighbors and friends. They are quite social with each other. If a family is in trouble, the other families take care of it because they know that they will also get help if needed. All of them are so interconnected that the common doors of some houses go up to the 3rd floor as well. The elderly people do not have to get down to go from one house to another. Here, 3 to 4 families live together in one house. When we see all this, we understand that this place is much more than the news headlines. Shibam is a great example of creativity. People here are living successfully in a harsh region with limited resources and in a climate unsuitable for humans. Although in today's time, concrete and steel can also be used here, these people are still keeping the old traditions of their city alive. Hope you will like and share this video. Thank you for your loving comments. See you in the next great video.